we are going to have a great conversation about something that has kind of a notorious name to it. Um, I see we've got some people. Abraham, we got you here from Massachusetts. Massachusetts. I'm coming to Massachusetts soon. Shirley in Minneapolis. We got the Beyond Project in the house from Seattle. So cool. Thanks for joining us. Katie's here from Chicago and Tara from Carolina, always in the house with us. If the rest of you want to pipe in and let us know where you're watching from, that'd be awesome. But tonight is really all about talking about the New Year's resolution. I don't know why I was having a hard time bringing that out, but the New Year's resolution. How many of you have a good relationship with New Year's resolutions? Actually, let me change that question. Type into the chat whether your relationship with New Year's resolutions is a good thing or a bad thing. I'm curious. I know for me, New Year's resolutions always felt pretty flat, right? That we'd have these big ideas and we'd get super excited about it. Like, oh, you know what? This new year's coming. I'm going to come into this new year with a whole new attitude, a whole new energy. And we make a bunch of, specific things that we want. And very often they don't happen. Shirley saying, I don't do them. Joanna saying, yes, it's a good thing. Good. Awesome. I'm glad that you're having a good relationship with the New Year's resolution. Amber says, never made one. This would be a good year to start. Well, maybe not, Amber. That's what we're going to talk about. So very often the thing that I know that I've experienced and the thing I hear from coaching clients, Misty saying 0 for 0. I love that. What a lot of my clients have experienced is that, like I said, we get super excited as we come into the new year, as we should, absolutely. This time of winter and then as we head into spring, it is very much a time of renewal. And so it's a great time to start thinking about how do we want to renew? How do we want to re-energize? So it's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, the concept of New Year's resolutions, but what really often happens is that we make them really big. It's like, oh, let's use something that most of us can probably have some relationship to, whether it's ourselves or someone we know, but, oh, I want to lose like 30 pounds or something like that. So we make this humongous goal that is a mountain to climb because we're so pumped up and we're so excited that we're like, I'm going to take on this really big thing that I always wanted to take on. That's fine. But what we fail to do is we fail to look at it as a long-term goal that has bite-sized chunks moving up to it. We also tend to give ourselves, we try to make the goal too fast. So again, let's use that same relationship. Welcome, Natalie. We love you too. Glad to have you here. But we often jump into these things and we want it fast. And so January 1st is coming. Okay, by the end of January, I want to have this, and this accomplished. Again, not necessarily a bad thing, but what we fail to do is, again, see that bigger project as something that we can bite-sized chunk. And is it realistic to get to the thing that we want to get to in that time period? Shirley says, oh, wait, I made a goal to declutter the house in 2019. I'm still working on it. Well, that's actually a great way to approach the goal because you're okay with it being long-term. The other thing that happens with New Year's resolutions is a lot of New Year's resolutions. Why am I having such a hard time with that word? But a lot of them come from shoulds. A lot of pressure about how we should look, how much money we should be making, about, how we should be living our life. And so the New Year's resolution is more about how we think we should be, or things from the external world that influence us, more so than what comes from in here. And I know I have a lot of hairdressers watching. This often is what happens. I was actually just talking to a salon owner recently, just this morning, actually, and we were talking about just simple goals like retail sales. And very often what happens is we make these big, fast, like, oh, I want to achieve this big, huge thing. But really the only reason that we're motivated to do it is because we think we should, because it's something that people have told us we should want or we should do. That's very, very hard to have to be sustainable because it's something external. Our motivation comes from, a couple places. Motivation can come from escaping pain. It can come from getting some kind of pleasure, or it can also come from some sort of internal value or internal need. So the escape of pain and the pursuit of pleasure, they are good motivators instantly. Because if I'm, feeling the pain of looking a certain way, not having enough money, those types of things, then that initial want is going to be strong. It's kind of like a caffeine or a sugar hit, though, because that initial want, that initial pain that we're trying to escape from, or that initial pleasure that we're trying to achieve, it disappears fast. And so if there's nothing below it, the needs, the true deeper human needs, our personal set of core values, who we actually are in our core, those are deeper senses of motivation, then it's really hard to sustain. And again, that's what we see a lot with these New Year's resolutions. Yeah, Shirley, that's shoulding all over ourselves. That was my coach Lynn Christian. She always said that. Stop shoulding all over yourself, right? So I'm just checking the comments. If you see my eyes go over here, it's because the comments are over here, and I want to make sure that I'm staying interactive with you, because that's a big thing for me on these shows. I want to stay interactive with you. I hate just sitting here talking to myself. So, Tara, I don't think of them as New Year's resolutions. They seem so temporary, and we always don't achieve them because we think too big and disappoint ourselves. I'm always working on improving myself. So cool. And that's a great point, Tara. And that's actually what we're going to kind of talk about as we get into this, is because what are different ways that we can approach these things? And I love what you said. The other thing that happens with these New Year's resolutions, or just goals in general, is that we tend to focus on the action. We tend to focus on the result. So what I mean by that is that, oh, well, I want to exercise more. Very common thing that we hear because we want to be healthy, right? Well, just wanting to exercise more is very much focused on the action that we want to change, not necessarily changing our relationship with our body, with our thought processes, with our feeling about activity in our life. And so, again, sometimes these New Year's resolutions or big goals that we make, they're just focused on something kind of surface, right? Also, very, very often, we want to do things that are not very fun, not very exciting, or not very interesting. And how likely are we to continue doing something that is boring, it's a pain in our butt, we don't look forward to it? And, we like to tell her things like, oh, we just need more willpower, stop being such a wuss, like pull your pants up, or I don't pull your pants up. No, I think that's what they used to tell me in high school because I'd had the droopy pants. But anyway, there's all these sayings to just kind of say, like, you got to just do it kind of a thing. And again, temporarily, a lot of these things are good motivation. Get us out of bed that first morning, that second morning, the third morning, the fourth morning. That's the morning where it's like, just come on, you need willpower. Well, it only lasts so long. It's a very fleeting type of motivation. So if it's not fun, it's not exciting, it's not something that we even find interesting, good luck sticking to it, because it doesn't have depth to it. And again, we can create these things in a different way. So I've mentioned to you all, I see a lot of familiar faces here in the chat, so we've talked very often. But Shirley's saying, I find it easy to get distracted from a goal with life popping up interesting other things. Yes, and that's another reason why those goals, those big New Year's resolutions don't happen, is because initially when we first set them, maybe they are even interesting, but they don't have lasting power because something else comes up. And so our focus wanes and it goes to something else more interesting. So one of the things that my coach, Lynn Christian, that you've actually seen on the show 2 times, 3 times now, and you've definitely heard me talk about her pretty often. One of the things she introduced me to really, and this was probably like back in like 2006, 2007, was this idea of intention setting for the new year. So it's more about looking at the next year and thinking about setting the intention of who do you want to be? How do you want to experience the year? So it's a very different thing. It's not about specific steps necessarily. It's not about like, well, to be that or to do that, I have to go to the gym this many times a week. I have to eat this kind of certain food. I have to meditate. I have to do all these things. It's not about the action steps. It's more about who do you want to be? How do you want to feel? How do you want to experience your life this next year? To me, it was a beautiful shift because it took it out of this concept and kind of like, Shirley was saying, instead of, kind of beating up on ourselves like, oh, I got distracted from that specific thing that I wanted to achieve, we get to check back in and say, well, does this fit this distraction, this new way that I'm headed? Does that distraction fit with how I intend for me to experience this year? Or the kind of person I am trying to intend to be within my life. So it's something that we can always come back to and keep checking in with. And like Tara said earlier, it gets us back into this perception that there's this journey that we're taking versus it being just kind of this end point, this end goal. Amber, you're saying here making a routine takes at least 30 days. It's very hard to stay consistent with life's crazy twists and turns. Yes, absolutely. Yes, Amber, it's about changing our mindset or our outlook on things versus just changing our actions towards them. And this is a great point that you're making about making a routine after 30 days. I've heard a lot of different things like this that, to change our habits, it takes, 30 days, or it takes this, or it takes that. To actually change our routine, and let's be clear about what that means. So when I think about routine and habit, it is our unconscious way of being. Without having to actually think about it, it's what we do. It's what we are. That takes a lot longer for most things than 30 days. It can take 30 days to get into a new routine of things. Like, okay, it can take that long to kind of get us into the flow of things, I think. And I think that's maybe what the intention was behind that saying. But what happens a lot of times to this point of it takes 30 days is, again, with these New Year's resolutions, we get to the end of January, and because we haven't necessarily had the exact results that we wanted, it's starting to lose interest. 30 days into it, we're kind of like, all right, I did it for 30 days and all right, done. Because we didn't actually change ourselves. We just changed our processes. We just tried to change processes. So yeah, surely intention has more of that vibe of exploration to it, right? Which I love. Tara's saying, I want to be my own boss, and I will next year. Renting my own suite for the first time. Scary, but exciting. Woo, yeah. Congratulations, Tara. We're behind you every step of the way. You're always such a big supporter of ours, so no, we're right behind you too. Ruby Lynn Hanley says, wake up every morning with a grateful heart. That's an intention that we can carry into 2021, right? And the beautiful thing is what we can do then. What Lynn said is, as you create these intentions, what you need to do is to get clear about what that looks like. So what does it look like to wake up every morning with a grateful heart? What are some of the things that you can explore, experiment with? And so Ruby Lynn Hanley, one of the things that you can think about is like, well, what does that look like? What types of things do I do so that I can wake up every morning with a grateful heart? And ask yourself, what happens when I do that? What experience do I have differently in my life? How do I treat other people differently? How do I experience life in a different way when I do that? And create that big picture. Then she said one of the things that's always really helpful is to create some type of talisman for ourselves. So in the past, it's been a piece of jewelry, maybe for me. It could have been quite a long time ago. I had this little like jade turtle, and I wanted to. Set the intention to have a more abundant mindset. That was my intention for the year. And this little jade turtle became the talisman for that intention. And I set it on my dresser so that every morning when I woke up, the first thing I saw was this little green turtle. And each time I saw the little green turtle, it was the reminder that, hey, remember, this is your intention, is to have a more abundant mindset. And so I'd have different meditations that I would do, different practices that I would do to support that. Yeah, Lorraine, everyone cheer on Tara. The other thing that can be a really fun project for the beginning of the year is something that we call the perfect week, perfect month project. So you can either do it as a perfect week, or for me, I liked doing it as a perfect month because within the span of a month, not every week, I don't want every week to necessarily look the same. Like I want to have kind of like, what does a work week look like? What does a week off look like? And so I did kind of a perfect month project. So here's what this looks like. You sit down, and if you had all the money in the world, if you had all the freedom in the world, what would a perfect day look like? So I know that this seems like maybe initially kind of this wishy-washy project. Like, well, I don't have all the money in the world. I don't have all the time in the world. I don't have all the freedom in the world. You know, I've got kids. I've got a job. Like, I've got a budget. Okay, that's fine. So you know what life looks like in that stage. Oh, surely, yes, and no fear, right? So if you had no worries about money, no fear, no constraints, no pressures, what would a day in the life of Shirley, Tara, Lorraine, Ruby, what would it look like? And you write that out. Get really specific. What time do you wake up? Where do you wake up? What does the room you wake up in look like? Is it the current room you live in, or is it something else that you have in this big, beautiful vision? But be really specific. Yeah, sleeping in, Shirley. So if that is part of your perfect day, that you get to sleep in till 10 a.m. every single day, that goes in your perfect day project. Then what happens after you wake up? What do you do? Do you exercise? Do you meditate? Do you eat a big, huge breakfast and sit on the couch and drink coffee? Do you take your dogs for a walk? Do you fill in the blank? But what happens next? Then, oh, it's lunchtime. Okay, what do you do for that? What kind of food do you eat? But also, how are you experiencing this? What does it feel like? What kind of person are you during this process? And get super, super clear and super specific. So after you complete your full day, including, do you work? Do you not work? If you do work, what does the work look like? What kind of job are you doing? When do you go to work? When do you not? When do you come home from work? Do you work at home? All of these different pieces. What's for dinner? What do you do in the evening? What time do you go to bed? What does that look like? What does that process look like for you in a perfect world? Then the next step is to step back and really take a look at this perfect scenario and ask yourself, what already exists in my life that is in perfect alignment with this perfect scenario? Now, for me, it's kind of one of those things where maybe achieving that exact day, do I think it's realistic? Do I not? Who cares? But what I know is that the more that we create intention to things, the more that we design something that we can see, we can feel, we can understand, the easier it is for us to walk towards it. And the more that we start to recognize that maybe some of the elements of our day, maybe it's just as simple as like, actually, I pretty much go to bed and wake up every day at the exact time I want to, even if it's my perfect day. Great. Just recognize that you already have taken a step towards that perfect day. And it's kind of like two magnets, right? My coach Lynn would always say, it's like two magnets. When the magnets are way out here and you can't feel any attraction, there might already be a little bit of attraction there, but you can't feel it. So you take those two magnets and it's like, oh, you know what? My perfect day, one of the things that I would do is I would wake up and I would have coffee with my wife on the couch. Oh, I already do that every single day. The magnets draw together a little bit more. Oh, you know what? Well, if that's already a part of my perfect day, oh yeah, and you know what? I eat the foods that I would normally want to eat in a perfect day. Oh, look, magnets coming closer. And so what you're helping yourself to do, what you're helping the whole body to do, is recognize that there are already elements of what you do on a daily basis that are that perfect day. But then you can start to look at, well, what's something else in this perfect day that is so achievable? It's not even a big stretch. What's the one little thing? Oh, yeah, that's part of my perfect day. So again, we start to see these action steps and these things that we can do that aren't just shallow. They're not just things that we feel like we should do, but we start to recognize them as things that are really important to us and things that really fit within how we want to live life. So I hope this is making sense. I'm going to check in on the comments here. Shirley saying, I'm loving this idea. Ooh, Misty, that's cool. Actually starting cosmetology school January 10th. Kid is grown, so starting on this new path. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Everyone give Misty a huge supporting like high five or a thumbs up or a heart in the chat. Let's give her some love because that's a very big move. And again, we have nothing but support for you. And you are going to do great. Just know that. We know that for you. Tara saying, wake up at 5, coffee, listen to self-development and work out, shower, dress, high-five myself in the mirror, drive to my suite, and have a fully booked day with my regular clients, go home fulfilled. If that is your perfect day, Tara, I have a feeling you are going to have your perfect day real quick because those are all things that you can achieve. Sorry, I had to lean over and turn the little heater off next to me because you can see my face and my ears are getting red. It was getting hot in here. You're very welcome, Misty. Yeah. Perfect day. Even if for 5 minutes, I sort of have a perfect day is every day. Yes, Lorraine, that's exactly the purpose of that project is to recognize that even if that perfect day is only for 5 minutes, you had a perfect day for 5 minutes. And so that tells us that, you know what? I can have 5 more. I can have 5 more. I can have 5 more. Yeah, Tara. Ooh, Amber, laying on the beach, blue skies, no clouds, listening to the waves roll in, picnic beachside, nice cold drink, no sand on top of my towel, in the salon by 5 p.m., working into the evening so my clients can come relax after work. That's cool, Amber. I like that because, I love that because for me, it would so not be my perfect day to start work at 5, but I love seeing that that is part of your perfect day. That's really cool. Yeah, Lorraine, we got what you were saying. Don't worry, stupid spell check. Yeah, I love the support in the chat. So awesome. Hannah's saying I'd actually do a lot of the same things I'd already do. I'd just be able to focus on things I'm passionate about and not have to worry about hustling. Yes, awesome. Natalia's saying keep learning about cosmetology. That's a great perfect day as well. And so yeah, Hannah, and again, I think all I'd say to that is just if you start to recognize where those pieces are in between the hustle, and hopefully it's a healthy hustle for you, but if we start to recognize those pieces, that can start to attract more of how we want it to look like. So great. I'm curious too, because one of the other things that my family has done, my wife and I have done in the past, how many of you out there have done vision boards in the past? Pop it into the chat if you've done vision boards. And if you have, how's it been? Do you like it? Are you not into it? Just curious. Shirley is saying a day without urgency is my perfect day. Very cool. And what a great intention. I would absolutely agree with you. A day that just kind of feels like I can approach it with the pace that I want. I think is absolutely a perfect day. So yeah, how many of you out there have done a vision board? And if you have, Lorraine saying me, love it. Awesome. And it takes a few seconds for me to see these comments come in. Oh, so cool, Ruby. My perfect day is to serve my clients with love and spread the happy energy. And I have the feeling you're doing that. So, welcome to your perfect day. So, vision boards are really, really kind of fun because what we can do is we can, especially those of you out there that might be artistic, it's a great way to, yeah, Lorraine, vision boards help my vision. And so, especially for those of that are artistic, we're visual people, getting something out so we can see it is a really, really powerful tool. And by the way, guest for next week, we're going to talk about manifestation. This woman, oh, Tiffany Peterson. I actually met her a long time ago back in Salt Lake City. We just did an event in Las Vegas this summer for Invisible Beat Extension. She was one of the guest speakers as well. She is such a powerhouse. So make sure you're back here next Wednesday too with Tiffany Peterson, because we're going to dive into this whole concept of manifestation on a whole different level. But when we're creating that vision, the more detail and the more that we can actually see it in front of us, again, the more ability we have to attract that or walk into it in our life. So one of the things, awesome, Abraham, super. One of the things that I'm going to do a vision board. I haven't actually done one the last few years. I feel like I kind of got a little burned out on it. But what I'm going to do a little bit differently this year with my vision board, and I'm going to throw this out there to you, is I'm not going to focus so much on the end result, because I would fill my vision board with the things that I wanted to have. I'm going to try this year kind of combining the intention setting with the vision board project. So this year, I'm going to create more of an intention board, which is how do I want to experience the year? Who do I want to be through that experience? How do I want to live my days? So it's more about kind of what Tara said earlier, which is more about how do I want to experience the journey of this next year, more so than what do I want to get from it. Now, that being said, I'm definitely not knocking if there's some specific things that you really want to manifest in your year, whether it's a car, or whether it's a vacation, or whether if there is certain things that you do want to have as results. Please don't let me suggest that you shouldn't have those on your vision board. All I'm suggesting is that if the result is there without the sensory part of it, which is how do I feel when I get that? And what do I have really when I get that? So there was, the movie The Secret, and they talk about like, well, if you're envisioning the car that you want, envision yourself actually in the car. What does being in the car actually feel like? What does it bring into your life that you don't already have right now? Because a lot of times the stuff that we want, the stuff is about what is the experience that the stuff brings. So if we're not actually clear on what that experience is, it's harder to walk ourselves towards or manifest, like we'll talk about next week. It's harder to walk ourselves towards that. So yeah, for me, I'm really in this place right now of letting go of the need for results. I think that that's something that we've just kind of been raised on as far as goals and, these big New Year's resolutions is we have to have this specific result. I've really found this year that the less I have a specific result that I have to have from something, and the more that I just walk into it with the right prayer, the right action, and the right intention, things come to me that are actually better than what my expected result was. And so, in some ways, I kind of think that the specific result sometimes is also almost a limiter to what the creative energy really could have in store for us. So, for me, I'm just again reminding you, for me, my vision board is going to turn into much more of an intention board this year. And it's more about, how do I want to explore? How do I want to take on this journey? How do I want to feel? How do I want to experience? So that's another option instead of going to the traditional New Year's resolution. Tara, what kind of air freshener is in the car? Hopefully it's not a vanilla real tree. I got so burned out on those in high school, and of course all my friends' cars smelled like cigarettes, and vanilla real tree is, it's disgusting. So Shirley, love doing hair, but I gotta say, finding the creativity drawn elsewhere. Great. So part of that intention setting might be to step into the exploration of, where is that focus being drawn to? Love that. Yeah, Lorraine, that's cool. I try not to do more than I'm able to. And I think that's beautiful. Setting up realistic expectations that it's like, no, this is actually achievable. I do have the ability to follow through with this, I think is so key to these kinds of things. Amber saying, I'm in a place of letting go of negativity that comes my way. I've been trying to go more of the mindset of some things in okay, I got it. Some things and people I cannot change, but this is what I can do to get my results. So that's beautiful, because there's certain things in our life that we don't necessarily have control over. There's most people in our life, well, all people in our life, we don't actually have control over. Sometimes we can influence them, but we don't have control over them. And so when we turn our focus, and we actually did a whole Wellness Wednesday on this, on the circle of concern, the circle of influence, when we put our focus into that outer circle, which is the circle of influence, it's putting our focus into the things that we really do have control over, which is mainly my mindset, my actions, my intentions. That's what I really have control over. So when I put my focus there, this inner circle, which is the circle of concern, it's the things we usually don't really have a lot of control over. Like, well, what's going to happen in our world next year with COVID? What's going to happen to our economy? What's going to happen to this, and this? Most of those things, we don't necessarily have a lot of control over how that's going to happen. But if we put our focus out here into, well, in my circle of influence, the things I do actually have control over, if I keep my focus there, it makes this inner circle, the circle of concern, keep shrinking. The outer circle grows. We focus on what we have control over. Inner circle starts to disappear, which is all the stuff that we are really just mainly concerns that we have that we don't have much control over. So I love that you shared that, Amber. Very cool. So the other option with really the whole concept of New Year's resolutions is kind of what Tara said first thing in our conversation, which is let go of New Year's resolutions and start to really step into a lifestyle that this is how we look at ourselves on a regular basis. For me personally, I look at this stuff every week. Where am I? Where do I want to be? How do I want to feel? How do I want to experience my life? And setting not necessarily goals, but explorations for myself on a regular basis. And that's another piece to this. I've really decided that the traditional goal setting process isn't really for me. Having these really specific steps and goals, it's just not fitting where I'm at in my life right now. So a lot of it is setting up experiments. So what happens if I try this differently? And I do that on a very regular basis now. So this doesn't have to happen just once a year. This can be something that you can have fun with and enjoy throughout your year. It takes patience and it takes compassion for ourselves, because let's face it, we're not always going to be in that place. And I think, again, that's what the trap of the New Year's resolution can sometimes be is, well, you know what? It's November 15th. I'll do a New Year's resolution January 1st. And so it's a great way to kind of put off things and just say, well, I don't have to do it right now because I'm gonna change then. And we know what happens when we start to do the I'll be happy when, or I'll be better when, or I'll be healthier when. It usually doesn't happen. So if we start to adapt more of a lifestyle that our month, our week, our days are looking at how do I create more harmony and how do I can be compassionate and patient with myself in a way that, okay, yeah, when Michelle and I were in Arizona, I drank too much. I ate too much. And then we came home and I didn't feel great. And it was kind of like, I shouldn't do that to myself. But then it's like, whatever, who cares? You did. You had fun. You enjoyed family. And now today's a new day. And instead of waiting for something to happen next year, do what I can do this week. And next week, if I fall off the horse, come back to it the next week. Whatever. Get into that state of exploration. Tara says, what will be, will be. Let it come. Guys, I visualized being in this exact suite in the exact salon my friend owns almost 5 years ago. It works. So cool, Tara. And thank you so much for sharing that, because I think the other thing too is when we were talking earlier, the thing that can sometimes get frustrating is when we have these really specific visions of what we want, if they don't come when we want them to, a lot of times we sort of let go of the vision. And there's a great part in that movie, The Secret, which I kind of like and I kind of don't, but who cares? It's a great movie. But there's a part in it where it talks about the fact that when we're creating these intentions or these things that we want in our life, it's like it's growing beneath the surface. It's like a plant, right? When you plant that seed 4 inches below the soil, there is a lot that is happening down here for a long time, and you can't see it from up here looking down, right? And very often what happens, Tara, if 5 years, during these 5 years where everything was happening kind of under the surface to make things just right so that this could happen for you, at some point there could have been that point where you're like, it's not happening. I guess I'm going to give up on this. And right at that point, that could have been that point when the plan just finally pops through the surface and shows itself. And so bravo to you for having the patience and the will to be ready for it 5 years later. Tara and Lorraine say, I like to party. Hey, look, I'd like to have a beer. Okay. I might have to have little check-ins popping up in the calendar to remind me what my intentions are, Shirley. Yes, and that's a big part of all of this. So whatever you choose to do here, and I'd be curious just as I kind of start to wrap this up, pop into the chat based on what we talked about, based on what you're feeling. I'm curious what you all are feeling motivated to do, whether it's maybe an intention setting practice, maybe it's the perfect week practice, maybe it's a vision board, but whatever it might be, just pop it into the chat. What are you feeling motivated to do now? So one of the things that's really key with all of this is that we remember, and I probably sound like a broken record to those of you that watch me all the time, but we have to remember that 95% of our day is controlled by our primitive part of our brain that is subconscious. And that subconscious part of our brain is just about habits and patterns that we have had for a long, long time. These are the belief systems. These are the habits and practices and processes you go through every single day. Most of it is subconscious. Think about the day you just had. How much of it did you consciously decide what you were doing, and how much of it was just subconsciously the things you do every single day, the thoughts you think most days of your life? And most of it is that subconscious choice. So if we are going to do something different, if we're going to feel something different, experience something different, it can't be an accident. We can't just have the intention. We have to have, like Shirley said, the reminder behind it. We have to have something that shares with us each day. Oh yeah, remember, you want to do something different. You want to be different. You want to feel different. You want to experience different. If we don't have something to tell the conscious mind, to override the subconscious and do something different, think something different, feel something different, we will always just end up right back where we were. So, like Shirley said, you're going to have to also put something into effect, whether it's little reminders into the phone, which is one of the things I do. I very often put my intentions on my home screen. I create like a little visual that I put on my home screen. So every time I open my phone, oh yeah, great reminder. It's there on my home screen. But we do have to do something to remind our conscious mind to take action in a different direction before the subconscious mind just puts us back into habit. So looks like Tara said, establishing boundaries. Nice. Very good. And so again, Tara, like I would just, the only thing I'd say is just think about what does that look like on a daily basis? What does it feel like on a daily basis? How do you experience life differently when you do that? And then you're going to have to start to create some experiments that you can try and some type of reminder system so that you can go, okay, today I'm going to try this differently. I'm going to see what happens and just continue to play and have fun with it. Yes, Lorraine, discovery brings you joy. Brings me joy too. Looks like Shirley's going to do the intention practice with the vision board. It's very cool. Hannah's going to try the vision board. Lorraine's going to say it won't kill me. Yes. I'm feeling gravitating. Amber's saying, I feel I'm gravitating towards making a mindset of each day. I'm going to make the best of my day today. Won't let anyone's negativity get to me. Small goal each day in which will change how I approach and deal with life in the long term. Very cool. I support that in huge ways. And again, Amber, the only thing I'd say is think of what can you do to remind yourself each day, whether it's like an alarm or some type of talisman that you have visually that you connect to each day. But just remember to put something into your daily practice so that you get that reminder. So I appreciate you all hanging out and it being so awesome and so interactive. I love just seeing the chats filled with and thank you for, reaching out and giving your support to Tara and to Misty for their new adventures, and to all of you, honestly. Thank you so much for being here, but just know that everyone here at Samvia, we've got your back too. So if you ever need anything from us, please reach out to us. Remember, next Wednesday, we have Tiffany Peterson on. She is a brilliant coach, a really experienced coach. She worked with, oh my gosh, what is his name? Chicken Soup for the Soul guy. And she's just brilliant. So I think you're going to really enjoy it. So definitely mark it on your calendars for next Wednesday.